What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the third episode of the Axntd Stoic. My name is Lanikea Fiso, and I am super excited to be able to do this podcast today. This podcast is going to be a little bit more raw, genuine, and intentional. And I kind of want to introduce, my life and how we got here and a few things like that. In the first few episodes, I kind of just went in with it guns blazing on some type of themes and trying to figure out topics and ideas, and honestly, trying to push stuff for like algorithm purposes. But I kind of want to just put this out there in the world. It is January 1st, 2026. So Happy New Year. I wanted to put this out there into the world for, even if nobody, really saw this, just for me to be able to have in the future and just to put out there. So to introduce myself a little bit, I'm 22. I live in Utah and have been here for basically my whole life. I'm married to my beautiful wife. Her name's Noelle. And we have a beautiful baby boy that we're expecting in 6 months. And we were super excited for that. I am currently working as a freelance, social content creator. So I do videography, video editing, and then I also I help people grow their channels and all that kind of stuff. And so, funny enough, I started doing this about a year and a half ago. Is when I picked up my first cameras, when I started getting into this and buying gear and all that kind of stuff. And I've been freelancing on my own and kind of been on my own for almost a year now. And so it's been really exciting. I've learned so much from it, and it's been super helpful. And I actually started this videography and editing kind of thing because I wanted to do something like this one day. I wanted to be able to have the skill sets to be able to shoot content, and not necessarily to shoot content to become a content creator for what the lifestyle holds for content creators and all that kind of stuff, but more so for the feeling that I feel like I have purpose and something that I could do to change the world one day, and that's kind of something that I've always wanted to do. And so I landed on this type of channel, on a podcast type of channel, in a stoic kind of way. Stoic in the sense of just deep thinking and deep thoughts. It's kind of interesting because I started this channel and I got the idea of accented stoic because I have always felt that I've been a very deep, introspective person. I've always felt that I'm a lot deeper than people my age, a little bit more mature in terms of the way that I think. And so I didn't really know a word that fully encompassed that idea of deep thinking, of mature thinking, of trying to unlock the secrets of the world kind of thing, find happiness, purpose, what is the meaning to life, adversity, hardships and trials, that kind of stuff, right? And so I thought about it as stoicism, philosophical questions and ideas and concepts. And the accented is kind of a modern twist of, bringing quote stoicism into the modern world. I don't really feel that stoicism per se is something that is not modern. I just kind of put that accented as like a phonetic spelling of a modern twist to stoicism, in the sense that it's currently in the present, in the moment, and honestly, a lot of the people that I listen to are and take a lot of lessons from are from the modern day and age, from social media and all that kind of stuff. And so, though I think there's nothing that's really being kind of created, I guess, in the philosophical sense, I personally feel like things are just being rediscovered in different ways and reframed in different ways for the modern world to fully understand. And so that's kind of the idea of the accented stoic, and the idea behind the accented stoic is just to understand thoughts and feelings and emotions, and talk about things that are just a little bit deeper, right? To just think a little bit more about life and what it holds for people. And not to say that I hope that people think about them in a more complex way. Actually, the opposite. I hope to simplify the way of thinking for people and to conceptualize the understanding of emotions and thoughts and feelings, and actually, put those into action to whatever purpose or goal it is you're trying to achieve in life. And not necessarily saying, for the people who want to be millionaires or whatever the case is, right? But just like the entire idea of trying to be a happier person or trying to feel more fulfilled in life, right? Trying to be here in the moment presently a little bit more, right? These are things that I think about a lot, and this is kind of why I created this channel. And so I'm really hoping for a lot of big things for this channel. I'm hoping for so much, and I'm hoping to learn so much, not just from my own thoughts and actions, but as we have guests on the show, and as I, expand to be able to talk to different people, to just really understand how people tick and like what makes them who they are. I just think it's so interesting. People are just so interesting to me. Everyone is just very different and has lived different lives, and I think it's so interesting what you can learn from a person and who they are. I feel as if nobody is not interesting. Some people are just better at showing that to the outside world than others. Like, I really do believe that it is one skill to show people how you can be interesting, and it is a different type of skill to try to bring the interesting out of people. And so I'm trying to combine the two and trying to bring, the interesting out of people and kind of show them to the world and really to themselves that they are interesting people, that there is so much to be had, underneath the surface. And so that's kind of the intro of, what the Axntd Stoic is and why I started this channel and who I am as an individual. This episode is kind of more of a raw and genuine episode, and it's something that I've been wanting to do for a while because it's been interesting. I truly do feel like I've been trying to create more for the algorithm and less for just like me and for the people out there in the world and what it is I feel could really benefit people. It's interesting because I have the capabilities as a videographer, as an editor, to be able to kind of spice things up, right? To put a little bit more effort towards these things. And honestly, I probably will at some point put more effort. And not by effort, I mean like, motion graphics and cinematic B-roll and things to help get the point across. I mean, that's really what videography and editing does, is, add things to hopefully get the viewer to really understand and immerse themselves into that piece of content. And I feel that truly the best way that I can portray what it is that I want the viewer to feel is by showing them the raw, authentic side of me and the channel, right? And what I want them to inhibit, to have, and to hold. And so with that in mind, just thinking about the next topics and all that kind of stuff, what I've been really thinking about has been priorities. Like I said earlier, I have a beautiful wife, and we're expecting a beautiful baby boy in the next 6 months. And so priorities have been at the top of my mind of what it is that I want to think about and what it is I spend a lot of time thinking about, right? And it's interesting because at my age, like I said, I am 22. And so for a lot of you out there in the world, you're going to really kind of be mind blown and baffled a little bit that I'm 22 and have a wife and about to have a kid, right? If you live in Utah or from Utah, more of a normal thing for you. But it's been interesting because I feel that I've been very introspective on what it is that I put my resources towards in terms of priorities. And I think it's been interesting because as I've reflected on priorities and what my priorities are, they've always been slightly different, it feels like. But it's interesting because right now I feel my priority, specifically in the career pathwise, is actually just to figure out what it is that I would like to do. And I feel as if I am at that first step doing this channel because I truly do feel like this is the thing that I want to do. Like, this is what I really want to do in life. My problem has never been that I can't work hard or that I'm scared of failure, my problem has always been that I'm going to waste my potential of who it is I feel I need to be in this world. And I feel as if a lot of people will resonate with this idea that when you acquire the base level skill set of hard work and discipline, you can apply those skill sets, you can apply those characteristic traits into any area of your life and basically know that you will succeed on a long enough time horizon. Discipline paired with consistency and hard work, all of those things combined, you can literally put towards anything and you can achieve any goal. But the idea is not that, for me, is not that I want to succeed. I mean, obviously I want to succeed. I know that I won't fail. Like, I won't fail at anything I put my hand towards. I want to be fulfilled at what it is I put my hand towards. And I think that's a harder thing to do. I think that's actually not a harder thing to do, but a harder thing to understand, because when it comes to being able to measure how hard you are at working or, discipline or consistency, those things can be measured in units of time, of money, of resources applied to those things, right? Like, you can show on a different, analytical, logical level that I am disciplined and consistent because I put X amount of time towards Y thing and Z outcome happens. And when you have those base level characteristics, it's easy for you, not easy, but it's doable for you to basically do anything in this life. But when it comes to being fulfilled, that isn't something that you can measure on some type of unit. That's a feeling and an emotion that you have to be internally tuned into to understand what that really means. And so though you can work hard at basically anything and have the quote Midas touch and make anything gold, it's about understanding what it is you actually want to turn into gold in your life. And I feel that's hard because, one, like I said, it's not easily measurable. But two, I also feel as if it's ever changing. I feel this changes within the circumstances of where you are in the stage of life. Like, think about when you are first born up until you're like, 8 or 9, or even longer than that, right? Like, your sole purpose at that point is to just survive and learn. Like, there's nothing else that you are put here on earth to do other than just basically survive and learn. And that is just what it is that you're doing for, that decade of your life. But as you get older, that priority switches. You now understand life a little bit more. You now have, the capability to be able to survive on your own, right? After you move out, after you're 18. And so the idea is not, okay, now I just need to survive, or now I just need to learn. It's, okay, now what is it that I want to do with this life that I have? Now that I can survive and that I can be on my own, what should I do with it? Should I start a family? Should I go find a girl? Should I start a business? Should I, go out and teach? Like, what will fulfill me in this life? What will make me happy? And it's interesting because a lot of people look at that in a present state, in a future tense type of way. But really, I feel as if it's a present type of question. Like, you might want to do X, Y, Z in the future, but what is it that actually fulfills you now? See, in the future, if your goal is to be a doctor, then going to school is what requires you to do that. But even though those things are hard, you will feel fulfilled because you understand that you're working hard towards the actual goal that you want, right? And so that present moment of time is you going to class, it's you going to school, it's that actual moment that you sit in, that you're doing something, and you just say, you know what, I feel fulfilled by this because I'm doing something that I want to do. But I think it's interesting because I feel as though those change. What happens after you graduate and you become the doctor and you now are the doctor that you wanted to be and at that financial place you want to do? Well, does life just get easier? Is that just it, right? Like, do you no longer need that fulfillment and purpose? Like, are you now fulfilled? And I think that's an interesting question to ask because that poses the question of, is fulfillment a binary thing or is it a continuum? And to, be put in easier to digest words, can I just be fulfilled? Like, is that a destination one day, or is that a continual thing that happens? And so for me, I think that's definitely a continual thing that happens. Like, you have to continuously feel fulfilled. And so after you reach that goal of being successful, of whatever, there's now something else that you want to feel fulfilled by. And I think the reason behind that is because we have, I believe us to have souls. Like, I believe that we have, something in our being that just wants to do more, that just wants to create, that just wants to live life. And so when you hit those milestones, a lot of the time you feel as if that's it. Like, that's the feeling. That's what I need to accomplish in this life. Like, that's all I have. And that's not, right. That's actually just the beginning, because now you need to, start your next journey on what it is you want to be fulfilled by. And I find it interesting because I think that the elderly and people who have experience in life understand this phenomenally, because they've accomplished everything in their lives and they've done all that they can. And once they get to the end, when their body is, now maybe a little bit more deteriorated, and it's a little bit harder to even, survive the way that you had back in the day, you've done everything. And so your goal no longer is, some crazy venture that you want to do, but your goal is simply to just enjoy the time that you have left and to spend it with those that you love and to do with it that makes you happy. And that is what fulfills them at that point in time. And so I think it's interesting, because I think the idea of being fulfilled and understanding fulfillment is actually the concept of being able to be here in the present moment. I think, and to some degree also understanding emotionally what it is you actually want. Because do I think you can be fulfilled at a job that you absolutely just despise and hate, and you just like can't like stand being at work anymore, and you hate your boss and all this other stuff? I don't necessarily think that the idea of fulfillment is just inter self-reflection and saying, yes, like I am trying to find happiness in this present moment of my boss just chewing me out right now. I think to some degree you have to understand that you need to look at your life and see what it is that you truly want to do in this life. And then after you understand what it is you really want to do in this life and answer that question, the fulfillment is taking actions towards that step, and then being in the present moment and understanding that it was always about the journey all along the way. Everyone always talks about that, right? Like, everyone thinks it's the destination, but it's actually really all in the journey. And I believe that to be true to some degree. I think the destination is important to set the milestone and the direction of where it is you need to go. But I think it's all about the journey, right? It is about how you learn and what you learn, and what this life has to offer you in the present moment. I mean, I truly believe that there is really nothing like being here in the present, right? Being here to live the moment that you have now and do what it is you can to achieve the things that you want to achieve. And so, coming back full circle about the priorities that I have in my life, I have tremendous priorities to be successful one day, but also I have tremendous priorities to be a good father and a good husband. And as I continue to try to do these things in this life, and as I try to prioritize what is important at this current moment in time, I understand that I feel the sense of fulfillment best when I have the direction I am going, and I am just taking as many steps forward as I can, even if those steps are, centimeters long, right? Just barely enough to call it even a step, right? It might not even be a step. It might even be just like an inch forward, right? Just like slightly leaning. But I find fulfillment knowing what it is I want to do, clarity, and two, knowing that I'm taking steps forward in the present moment, right? And to that degree, I think there are going to be a lot of things that you want to find fulfillment of. But overall, the idea of fulfillment has to come from clarification through self-reflection, I believe. You need to clarify to yourself what you want in this life, and you have to look deep inside you to understand what it is you really want. Like, there's this idea that if you could do anything that you want in this life, and somebody told you that you could choose, one thing and it was 100% success rate, what is it that you would do? And I like to think of that as like the Midas touch, right? Like, if you knew that like you could just touch your hand and turn anything into gold, what's the thing that you would turn into gold within your own life currently? I feel that answer that you have in your mind, that is direction. That is the destination. Whatever that it is that looks like, I feel that is your soul yearning and telling you, this is what I want to do with my life. And I think ignoring that too long will eventually just snuff that flame out, and you will become kind of content with the idea of living a more monotonous life than you might want to. Now, granted, it could be safer, it could be richer, it could be more full, but I would argue that it would probably be less colorful, right? Like, if you have all the money in the world, but it's not really what you want to do, is that really fulfillment in your life? And so I think these are interesting questions to reflect on, specifically within this next year, right? Like, reflecting upon yourself and thinking like, what is it deep down that I want to do? And understanding that if you don't know what that is right now, that's okay. Like, as long as you don't maybe need to know the end destination, and rarely you ever will, but you just need to know where the next step is going to be taken. Like, what direction is the next step going to be taken? I feel like a lot of people can understand that at bare minimum, they know that. Well, I don't know what it is that I want to do with my life. I don't know what career I want to have or person I want to become, but I do know that I want to be healthier. But I do know that I want to learn how to play instruments a little bit better. But I do know that I want to go to school. Well, great. That is a direction, a place that you can start stepping, and there are definitely things that you can do within this present moment to actually achieve the idea of taking steps towards that direction. And as you take steps towards that direction, it opens different doors and different hallways, but you have to start taking those steps. And I think for a long time, my biggest issue was actually that I had a hard time taking those steps, because I would sit there and just reflect upon what it is that I wanted to do in life, and just sit there and look at all of the directions I could go, all of the landscapes, what it looks like, if it looked cold or hot, how fast was it going to get to my destination? Like, well, would it be the scenic route or the not scenic route? Like, which way should I go? And I felt that I would sit at that crossroad for an extremely long time, just for me to start walking down a crossroad and realize this is actually not the one that I wanted to do, even though I've seen multiple people pass me, go forward, choose a direction, and then I'll even see them come back and choose a different direction, and I'm still sitting at the same place waiting for my answer of what direction I should choose so I don't have to look back. I think the idea is that you never really have to look back, you just have to keep moving forward. And so as you continue to step forward, I feel it's so much easier to actually understand what it is you want in your life clarity-wise, because you can adjust your direction. You can adjust, the compass and where you're taking those steps. If you decide that, you wanted to go to school, or you wanted to start that business, or you wanted to find that wife, or that husband, or whatever the case was, that you would start taking those steps in that direction. And maybe you'll realize that that's not the direction you want to take. And so you start taking steps in the other direction, and eventually you'll meet the other path if that's the path that you needed to go. I don't necessarily think that a person backtracks. I mean, realistically speaking, when it comes to time, like, you can't backtrack, right? Like, if there was a path and you were walking that path and you could basically never walk backwards, you could never turn around, that path would be called time. And so as you step on this path, if you feel you're on the wrong path, you don't go back and change it. You just start going in a different direction towards the other path. And so if you come to a crossroad and there's two paths that split, don't think that those paths never, will merge or meet up again. Most definitely they can. And a lot of people will find that they will just merge themselves over there. Yes, the terrain might be a little bit rockier than the clear-cut path that you wish you would have walked at the very beginning, but ultimately at the end of the day, there is nothing you can do about that. And so you are taking steps in the direction to the next path until you finally get on that path and meet that path. But I would argue that when you walk down the wrong path and realize it's the wrong one and have to walk towards the different path, I would argue that you're still walking the right path. You were never walking the wrong path, right? I think the only time that you are on any type of wrong path is when you stop walking at all. Because then it doesn't matter what path you're on, you're just not going anywhere. And so, in the sense that, this path is time, you can't stop time, right? But you can stop the action of what it is you're doing during that time. Like you can choose to do nothing and not walk that path, right? I would see this as maybe not stopping in the path, but just walking horizontally, right? Like just pacing back and forth on that path. You're doing nothing. You're not moving forward. You can't move backwards, and so you're just pacing back and forth, right? And I think it's important to be able to take steps forward and walk those paths and find your path and build your path. And that's why I think everybody is to some degree a pioneer, right? It's not even to some degree. Everyone is a pioneer in their own world, in their own life, because no path is walked the same way. You will intersect with paths and see, footsteps of past people who have walked that same path, and you can follow that path, pretty to a T if you wanted to. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the path that you take is unique to you. There is no other path like that. There's no other path that curves and cuts, sharp like this and goes straight like that the way that yours does. And so stop focusing. And I guess this is like just something to me, right? Like a message to me, but stop focusing on other people's paths because it doesn't matter. Like their path is different than your path, and your path is never going to be the same like anybody else's. So don't worry about their path. Just focus on taking steps forward in your own and finding the direction that you want to go, because ultimately you're going to get to the destination that you want to be at in life. You're going to get to the milestones in this path of, you're going to see the waterfall and you're going to see the beautiful sunset, and you're going to see the gorgeous scenery and lake at the top of the mountain, right? Like if all of these, if this analogy was all of these things were milestones in your life, right? Being married, getting out of college and graduating and, doing the career and all that stuff, you're going to hit those. But you should also remember that there's so much beauty in that path already. You just have to look up from the path, right? There is so much beauty leading up to the waterfall, right? Like there's so much life and color, and there are so many trees and just beautiful things around you. And when you get to the waterfall, it just makes it more magnificent when you continue to notice the things that were on the path, because you realize what created the waterfall. You realize how the waterfall got there, right? Like in your life, when you get to the big moments of your life, when self-reflecting in the present times leading up to that moment, you understand what it took to get there. And it just becomes all that more beautiful, and you become all that more grateful for that thing. But the path keeps going. It never stops, right? And so that's why, coming back to the idea that reflection within the elderly and with older people, I do think that there are less milestone, beautiful things towards the end of life, those paths that you feel, because you just understand how to see so much beauty in the path you're walking already. And I think that is what is important. And so within this next coming year, right, there's going to be a lot of things within this path for me specifically. And so within this next coming year, I think there's going to be so many different paths for you and I to both walk. We are the pioneers of our own path, and the path is forever moving forward. You can look back as much as you want. You'll never be able to step back into time and to fix any steps that you took. And so focus on your path and the path that is in front of you. If you hyperfixate on other people's paths and what, milestones they're gonna see, what the waterfall will look like versus your waterfall that you will see, and all these other different scenarios, I think you'll find that you will miss the beautiful things that are in your own path. And everybody's path is super beautiful and unique in its own different ways. But you're never going to fully understand that if you don't take the time to look at that in the present moment. And so one thing that I think I'm going to work on in this next year is truly understanding how to reflect on my path, focus on my path, and just work hard towards my path and really my path only. And not just my path, but the people that are on my path, right? Whether that's your small business or your big business or your family, there are people that walk this path with you, and you all have a different set of eyes, a different pair of eyes, and you all see things in different color, and in different ways. But ultimately, you all walk down a path together. And so don't miss the small moments and the small times within the present moment, right? Message to me, hopefully in the future, if things go the way that I hope they go, I hope that future me will take some time to focus on the path that is in front of him and the things that are around that path, the beauty, the color, and all the small details that led up to that path. And so, going into 2026, I'm so grateful and so excited to be able to do this podcast of the Axntd Stoic, to be able to understand other people's paths and take a look into their own, and to understand mine a little bit more, and to understand what it is that I can do to more effectively notice the path that is in front of me, so that when I do get to those big milestone, monumental moments, those scenic, beautiful places, the waterfall, the beautiful sunset, that I can take some time to reflect at those big moments and understand that there was so much that went into building this small, beautiful moment. And just as everything else, that moment too will pass. And I'm just very grateful for this opportunity to do this. And quite honestly, if this never blew up and this never went anywhere, and this was just me talking to my camera for the rest of my life, and my family got to see this, or I just got to rewatch this, I would be more than grateful and happy, because this is a way that I can help capture a little bit of the path. All right, like art is so beautiful in the sense that it just captures that current moment of emotion and feeling, and what it is you can do with that, right? I heard this from Alan Dubotin and Chris Williamson on the Modern Wisdom podcast, but it's this analogy of the first, and I guess not an analogy, but this legend of the first piece of art that ever came to be, and what was this, called art. And it was these two shepherds that were in love, right? A boy and a girl. And the girl was going to move away and she was going to leave. And so on their last night, they went into a cave, and the moon was shining extremely bright. And they were sitting at the cave, and the boy noticed that the girl's shadow was casting on the cave wall. And so he told her to stand still, and he took a rock and he drew her outline of the shadow on the cave wall. And she left, they parted ways, and he would come back to that cave and look at that outline and feel, that feeling of what he felt when he was with her. And so I think, the podcast is my way of capturing the present moment, of capturing the beautiful things in the path. It's being able to reflect and understand and then capture it in real time. I mean, as this is currently happening, this is the real time. And this moment will pass, and I will walk, past this, and I'll never be able to walk back into this moment. But the idea that I have captured this moment and that I will be able to capture these future conversations with people in the world, and, with my own thoughts and feelings, and people will be able to use this to reflect on and hopefully understand what direction they want to take in their path, and where it's going to go is something that's worth it to me in my mind. And if that's what it was, and that's what's the only, if this never blew up and the only reason was just for me to be able to capture the beauty in my own path, I'd be forever grateful for the opportunity, and am forever grateful for the opportunity. So here's to a new year, in 2026. I'm so excited for what this year holds and for what this year brings. Yeah, shout out to all of you. And I really hope that you guys enjoy this video, and do enjoy this video for those of you who do watch it. If you see this, you made it all the way to the end, and I'm extremely impressed. But yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you there.